Oh, hello everybody and welcome to Act 3. We are absolutely 1000% delighted that you joined us today. And we've got a really big show for you. And we've also got some really important conversations that we really need to have right now. You know, the entire country is on fire. We are hearing about climactic events everywhere, and we know that the world is in crisis for lots and lots of reasons. But what's often forgotten in the conversation is how we as individuals can help be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So in today's episode, we're going to have some deeper conversations and we're going to have a little bit of fun as well. Part of today's episode is going to have Abigail actually sharing a little side of her that you've not yet seen before. So we're delighted that she's here. We're also going to talk to the city of Nanaimo, and we're going to figure out what does it mean to be prepared? How can we move the dial forward? And we're also going to take a deep breath, because you know what? That's what we really need to do, but not before we have a great meal. So already I'm telling you some hints of what's going to happen on today's episode. Grab yourself a beverage and enjoy the program.
I'm sitting on the edge of love and happiness. Never experienced such a moment as this. So if you got that good feeling in your body and you wanna bring this moment to life, come with me, we'll hit the town. Let's go right now and live the life. I just wanna shine like the sky up like a sunset, living with no regrets. I just wanna shine.
Hi, my name is Dean Fellner, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Evan Lloyd, who is the Emergency Program Manager of the City of Nanaimo. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
Great. So here we are. It's wildfire season, and today we're going to focus on some tactics and some information regarding wildfires and fires in general. How can people protect their homes during wildfire season?
Yeah, great question. Very topical. So in Canada, we have a program called Fire Smart, and that's an educational program that is across the country. We have a specific Fire Smart education in British Columbia, and that really teaches people how to protect their homes and their properties so that they're more resilient in the event of a wildfire that comes to their house or their area. So many houses, actually a large percentage of houses that are destroyed in wildfires are actually destroyed by embers that are airborne. So there are strategies and advice within the Fire Smart program for different home structure types, things like soffits and screens that you can install in your house that make it more resilient to wildfires. And then there's also, of course, education on how to better lay out your property, moving firewood away from the side of a house, moving propane tanks away from a house, and thinning trees and other flammable items on your property so that your property, your house, is more resilient to wildfires.
Oh, interesting. And so that you can get that information at firesmartbc.ca.
That's correct. So there's firesmartbc.ca is our provincial Fire Smart program. It's very extensive. There's a lot of great educational material on there, and people can find out a lot about how to protect their houses.
That's great. That's great. What can people do to prepare for emergencies in their home?
Yeah, so that's a good distinction, I think, from the Fire Smart thing is obviously wildfire season is right now, but we need to be prepared for all kinds of things that can happen. And building a kit at home and having a plan with you and your family members is the most important thing we can do, regardless of wildfires, so that we're prepared for anything that can happen. And being prepared at home, having food and water for several days, having some emergency supplies, medication, extra medication if you rely on medication, first aid supplies and things like that. All of these things are really important because the more prepared we are at home, the more resilient our communities are, because if you're prepared at home, it's less of a demand on the resources of first responders to address your needs if you're already self-sufficient. So
Yeah,
it's really important. It adds a lot of resilience to the community.
That's great. Yeah. Okay, so how would we figure out if there was an evacuation? Like how, as a citizen of Nanaimo, would I know that there was an emergency?
Well, when evacuations have sort of two stages. There's an evacuation alert, which is a warning that we are under evacuation sort of warning. And there's evacuation orders, which are sort of mandatory declarations that people must leave. So usually it happens in a staged process. For instance, when we're talking about wildfire evacuations, the BC Wildfire Service is obviously the lead agency deciding if there is going to be an evacuation. And they work with their partners in other provincial government agencies and the municipal government to get the word out to determine where the area of evacuation is going to be, so what neighborhoods are going to be evacuated, and then the communication channels that are available to all those agencies, including some of the things that we probably experienced across the province, like the emergency broadcast alert system. Things like those things can be used depending on where you are. So for instance, in Nanaimo, we have what's called Voyant Alert. And Voyant Alert is a subscriber service, so people can sign up to receive Voyant alerts that we send out from the city in case of major emergencies or events that we want the public to be aware of for public safety. But again, the provincial government can also send out evacuation orders and alerts through all the available media channels. So whatever your preferred media channel choice is. You can sign up on social media to receive government alerts as well and updates on wildfire information as well as other emergencies. So there's a lot of different channels available to receiving alerts. So
well, we've all been woken up in the middle of the night with the test of the emergency fire, right?
Yes,
So
that's right.
They're very effective.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you're in an area that's under an evacuation alert? Like, what are some of the key things that are going to be beneficial for survival or to gather your family together?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I think if there's an evacuation alert for your area, it's really important to get prepared in the event you are expected to leave. So what we want to do is have some, basically, we talk about the emergency preparedness kit at home, and that's really staying in the home for multiple days. But if we're under evacuation, then we need to be ready to move. And so having a grab and go kit, so a smaller version, a mobile version of an emergency supply kit is really important. Having a plan with your family members, so having a plan where you're going to meet in case you're separated, or maybe some people are at work, some people are at school, some people are at home. Having a place to meet is really important. And then having contact information for each other is also really important. So having phone numbers, things like that. You might also want to, if it's available to you, reach out to family members or friends who live outside the region that you're in so that you can arrange for accommodation perhaps and things like that. So, and really just paying close attention, as I'm sure people would, to whatever information is coming out from the government agencies that are involved in the response in the situation at hand.
You know, a lot of people too worry about their pets as well during fire, right? And some people make the mistakes of being not thinking properly and entering into situations in the last minute to try to deal with their pets. So how would you advise someone to move forward?
Well, when we talk about building an emergency kit at home, it's for the family, and for many people that includes a furry family member. Right. So we want to include them in our emergency planning. So that might include having food for them for several days as well. We talk about having 4 liters of water per person per day and enough food to sustain a person for several days. Same thing applies for pets as well. And then when we get into the evacuation situation, we want to think about that as well and take consideration pets. But most emergency social services programs or support services programs where people are go to reception centers and are sheltered, a lot of them have plans for pets and have supplies and things like that. And this has happened enough in our province. Maybe unfortunately, but it's also good because it's building our resilience as a province and as a community. Through those experiences, a lot of programs have plans for pets or have ability to help out with pets as well. Though, again, best to be prepared for your own pets in case they have special food or medication.
So what advice would you give us and the viewers that are watching today on how to avoid wildfires in the future? What can we do as a community to help out?
Well, that's a very tricky question. Obviously, I think we're learning that wildfires are a part of our present, and I think we can expect that they'll also be a part of our future across the province of British Columbia. I think it's really important for us to understand that and accept that, and to think about ways that we can support efforts to mitigate wildfire impacts in the future. So there's a lot of effort going on at various levels of government to mitigate or reduce the risk and negative outcomes of wildfires. And a lot of that is, can be really supported by public buy-in. Things like fuels management work in identified high-risk wildfire areas, maybe some seasonal burning. So in the spring and in the fall when fire danger ratings are low, we can conduct fuels management work and some burning. A lot of those programs and projects will be coming more and more into the public eye, I think, in the coming years, and it's important for people to support those because those are our best methods for reducing our overall risk to wildfires.
Great amount of information today. So again, we can go to firesmart.ca or preparebc.ca, right?
Yep.
And then there's also the emergency system Voyant Alert, which is also available at nanaimo.ca. Right. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming out. You've given us a vast amount of information to prepare for wildfires both now and in the future.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. So over to you, Teresa, for the Wellness Minute. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. That was really great information on emergency preparedness. My guest is Sharon Summerfield. Sharon is a well-being coach and a holistic nutritionist, and she's going to talk to us about proper nutrition and hydration. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being with us today.
Always wonderful to spend time with you, Teresa.
So obviously during an emergency, things can start going awry, and if we're not eating properly and hydrating properly, things can really go sideways fast.
Very fast. So the important piece really is to find those ways to hydrate on an ongoing basis throughout the day with what you're drinking, what you're eating. This time of year, watermelon is a phenomenal thing to enjoy. Cucumber, as the emergencies happen, grocery stores quite often struggle. So if there's opportunities to support farmers markets or, whatever you're able to grow in your own garden, but the big piece is hydrate, 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 often and well.
Yes, and that was what Evan was saying, to make sure you have water on hand because you might not have access to clean water during an emergency. But every day, even when we have heat domes like we've experienced, it's good to hydrate.
Well, even simple things like during the heat dome, why not boil some extra water that you boiled the night before to have it ready for the next day, so that it's another way to stockpile so you can stay hydrated.
Yeah, that's good. And I know seniors often are dehydrated on a regular basis, so it's even more important for seniors to make sure that they're getting proper hydration during heat domes or during emergency situations.
Well, actually all the time. Yeah. And one thing that's really helpful, quite often seniors, I know with my mom, she likes her juice. So we add more water to her juice, or we'll put more ice in it. So you still get that sweetness, but you're also not getting dehydrated to the point where, your hands might feel tight. And, part of the hydration is also finding those ways to keep moving.
Yeah,
as you are able. Yeah,
and that's important. We hear a lot about electrolytes, losing electrolytes. Is that something that we really need to be concerned about during hot weather?
We need to really pay attention to our body. How is our body feeling? If we're starting to feel lightheaded, maybe we've been in the sun too much. Yes, electrolytes and keeping them in balance is really important. And enjoying whole food not only is a good investment in our well-being on an ongoing basis, it's going to support us, particularly during hot weather.
Yeah. So what are some of the foods that you recommend? Like we've talked about watermelon, cucumber. What are some of the other food, like for a meal, that's great for summer and when it's hot?
Summer, when it's hot, you want to make sure you're getting enough protein. And, I love cucumber and watermelon, even chop them up together as a salad. And, things like tomatoes from that you can add, grill your food, salads. Quinoa is another phenomenal thing. It's a source of protein. It is very healthy. It's an anti-inflammatory. So it also supports you when it's really warm. What doesn't support us are chips and junk food.
Yeah. Darn, I knew you were going to say that. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for giving us some suggestions on how to stay hydrated, especially during the hot weather. We really appreciate you being here with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Wonderful to be with you. And I always like to say, be nourished in all you do.
So now we are going to have some magic with Abigail and Craig.
Thanks, Teresa. Abigail and I are joined today by Craig the Magician, who's going to take our breath away in a completely different way. Thanks, Craig.
Hey, thank you very much for having me here. It's a delight to be back on Act 3. I get the grand pleasure of performing all across Vancouver Island and performing at multiple different fairs and festivals. In fact, the Chamber of Commerce is having me back at the Thursday night market starting on the 22nd of this month. And what I'd love to do is show the two of you a little bit of the magical fun that myself and my assistant Steve are going to be bringing to these events. Abigail, does that sound good? All right, high five. Let's have some fun. Are you ready? High five. What we're going to do is start with something a little strange, I know, but my shirt. You'll notice it's got a little bit of red that's right about there. Now, I know it's a little hard for you to see, and I'm willing to bet it's more difficult for the camera to see. You look confused. Don't worry, it's going to get worse. I'm going to take that little bit of red, and I'm going to puff it up just like a marshmallow. Now, in case you don't know how marshmallows are made in the factories, they take a little bit of sugar and various other chemicals, and then they heat it up. You see, once it's been heated up, they puff air into it. What happens is the air rushes in, and it slowly starts to puff up, just like that. Now, Abigail, I'm going to get you to take a look, make sure it is what it is. I don't know what it is, but it isn't a marshmallow, so please don't eat it.
It's squishy.
It is squishy, just like a marshmallow. Now, here's the neat thing. I'm going to take that one, turn it into two.
What?
Now, I know, mathematical magic, it's very strange. You're looking at me like I'm odd. This is an accurate look. I'm going to take the one, turn it into two, and it's quite simple to turn one into two. What? They're laughing at me. No, look, to turn it into... Oh, wait, hold on, I got this. You ready? Okay. Turning one into two.
No.
Well, yeah, one and one.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you see the eye roll on that? You don't believe me at all. No, it's true. I got that one there and that one there. Things I have to pinch it, because if I don't pinch it, this one will fall over there, that one will fall over there. It's a big old mess. I can't have that. Now, here's the neat part. Abigail, when I started, whoa, hold on. Sorry. What I said was that we were, whoa, hold on. Sorry. Steve, I need your help. Is that okay if you help us out? Thank you. Steve, the highly trained assistant. Abigail, what I'm going to get you to do is hold one hand out just like that. Excellent. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold mine nice and high. I'm going to get you to hold the other one. When that gets to your hand, what I need you to do, nice and simple, just squeeze it as tight as you can. Sound good?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Remember, I'm going to hold mine nice and high over here. I'm going to get you to hold, ooh, chicken slobber. I'm going to get you to squeeze that one nice and tightly as you can. Go ahead, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Use both hands. Use both hands. There you go. Can I get you to do this? Not that difficult, is it? Can I get you to pretend to pull my ball out of my hand? Go ahead. Throw it into Abigail's hand. Abigail, this is what, we'll hold our hands side by side. This is what we in the industry refer to as the eye-popping, jaw-dropping, gobsmacking part. This is the part where you and I, we open up our hands in 3, 2, 1. And that is some of the magic I'm going to be bringing across the island as Craig the Magician.
Abigail, you've been an amazing assistant. Better you than me, kiddo. Be sure to see Craig the Magician somewhere locally soon.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Alexis, and with us we have Samantha Wagner, one who wears many hats. Would you mind sharing with us some of these hats?
Sure, it's all related to the health and wellness industry, but I'm a personal trainer, I'm a nutrition coach, I'm a yoga teacher, and also now a sleep, stress management, and recovery coach as well.
So this is perfect because during this time of emergency preparedness, we're looking at lots of different ways to self-calm and self-regulate. Do you have a top 5 or 6 that you might share with us?
Sure, I'd love to. We'll start with a few breathing practices because that's probably by far one of the easiest and best methods to calm and self-regulate. So first we'll go with Sitali breath, or Sitali breath, sorry, Sitali, I have to make sure I'm saying that right. So this is a cooling breath, so it actually cools the body temperature. So there's two different ways you can do this. Number one, you can either curl your tongue and then take a deep breath in,
I'll let you do that.
and then close the mouth and then breathe out of the nose to release the heat. So the cool air coming into the body will help cool the body temperature and then also cool the mind and give yourself some clarity in maybe a stressful situation. Okay. The other way that you can do the same breath, because some people can't curl their tongue, so you can then begin to breathe into your mouth in this way. Same idea, close the mouth, breathe out. Make sure that those inhales are, not forced, and the exhales are very long and surrendering or letting go kind of idea, right? You want to make sure that they're really long, release the stress.
Can you show us one more?
Oh, sure.
Again.
So I'll do the curled method because I can do that. So. And I love to close my eyes. Just, again, adds to that dramatic or that effect there. Second breath that we'll do is lunar breathing, actually one of my favorites. So if you've heard of alternating nostril breathing, it's similar but different. So some of you may have heard that out there. So we're gonna you can take your hand, whatever hand you like, plug your right nostril, breathe into your left nostril, plug your left, and then breathe out through your right.
I'm dyslexic.
It is kind of an awkward breath for some.
I'm gonna watch you.
But it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite, and this helps to cool any heated emotions like frustrations, annoyances, impatience, anything kind of like that kind of just gets you irked or going, or even in a stressful situation, because that can be very heated as well.
Do that one?
Yes, sorry. Breathe in through the left, out through the right. And continue just doing it in that way, and you'll feel the effects pretty much instantly with that one.
Okay.
And the third one that I like to share is a physiological sigh. So in that way, we take 2 breaths in, so it sounds like this. And then breathe out with a sigh. And making sure that all this breathing, no matter what kind of breathing you're doing, is done with the diaphragm. So diaphragm's located just by the stomach, so you want to make sure that you're expanding the rib cage, the belly will just follow, and the chest will follow, as long as you're breathing from the diaphragm. And that will set a nice, calm energy towards you.
So breathing during stress is very helpful.
Very helpful.
And do you were telling me earlier about NSDR?
NSDR, or otherwise known as Yoga Nidra, which is a very ancient practice, as all of these practices are. But science now is really coming out and kind of getting into one with this and realizing, oh, they actually know what they're talking about. It's not just a woohoo type of thing. So NSDR is non-sleep deep rest, or Yoga Nidra. So to do this during a stressful time, it calms and soothes the nervous system, because we can get very erratic in a chaotic situation. So all you need is anywhere from 5 to preferably about 20 minutes. And you want to probably do it guided until you can get to know it on your own, to do it on your own. But basically they guide you into different points of the body, and that's where you put your awareness to, and then you relax the area. And it gets you into the zone of in between sleep and wakefulness.
So if we were to move this just in a very short form, what would that look like?
So closing your eyes, laying down on your back.
Okay.
And then the guidance would be like tips of your toes.
Okay. So this is something to be practiced when there's a quiet time.
Yes.
And in the meantime, I wish to thank you so very much, Samantha, for coming and sharing with community different ways for emergency preparedness within. So thank you so much. And next, here's Kathy.
I think I'm going to need a little bit of practice when it comes to that breathing thing. But you know what? It's so important that we take the time to take a breath. I really, really am delighted that our guests have been here today to help us think about a few things that we might not have thought about when we think about being prepared for an emergency. We've had a couple of experts over the couple of shows that we're going to do over this that will hopefully give you some insight and some remembrance on maybe how you might be able to take care of yourself and the people in your neighborhood just a little bit better. What I know for sure is that we have to take the time to take a deep breath. We have to take the time to, even though we're listening to the news, let's not panic over the news. Instead, let's take one step at a time and one breath at a time. And that might be hard with all of the smoke. And I know for older adults, there are some respiratory issues that are happening. And so I think it's really important that you do talk to your family and make sure that you're protecting yourself in the best possible way. That may include some of the suggestions we talked about today, including taking in more water, taking in fruit and vegetables that are going to actually nourish your spirit while you're going through it. I know for myself, this time has been a really, really tough one. And it's been a tough one because my family has been surrounded by the fires in Alberta, in Fort McMurray, in Drayton Valley, my dear friends in Port Alberni, and so many people all over Vancouver Island. And so part of the reason why we did 2 shows, and so you've just watched the first one, so it's a cue that you have to tune in for the next one. The idea is that we can give you the tools that you might need to help you get through some of the tough stuff. But also remember that Craig taught us how to laugh, and we also have to remember to laugh at ourselves. And I gotta tell you, this whole breathing in one side and out the other, well, that's subject for a little bit of practice. We are delighted that you join us on Act 3. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Have yourself a great day, everybody.